Hey guys, Paul Morrow here for OpsDesk.org. I want to do a quick update on the events of today, New Year's Day. A lot of fast-breaking things happening. Just got off the air. Information is still coming in. Here's what the takeaways are at this point. Jabbar, as we know, is dead. Two other devices that apparently did not detonate in and around the area that he did his attack, but they didn't detonate either. Those were, according to my information, pipe bombs that had nails in them. Why they were planted so far from where he was and carried out his attack, and why they didn't detonate, is up in the air still. Well, my gut tells me that those two devices and the planting of those two devices may very well go to why the investigators are so convinced that there are other people involved here. Also, reportedly, they have some blurry video of other people being involved. That's why they're not putting it out, because it's not that helpful. But very clearly, they seem sure. They're not hedging on the idea that there are other pieces out there. And kudos to Senator Kennedy for showing up for the press conference and saying, we want answers and we better get them. Because let's be frank, that press conference was not exactly something for the Hall of Fame. All right, everybody wanted to get their FaceTime, and we got some real irrelevant moments in that thing that I don't think inspired a lot of confidence. That chief of police talking about fire purifies and all sort of stuff. We don't want poetry right now. We want to know where the bad guys are, and are there any more out there, and are they dangerous? Two things that come to mind for me, having done 15 years of counterterrorism. Number one, this looks very much like the Saifullah Saipov event that occurred on the West Side Highway here in New York. Very similar data points. A rented vehicle on a holiday, an ISIS flag on the truck, exactly what Saipov had, and then he leaps out of the truck. Saipov had two fake guns on him, but the cop who shot him didn't know that. This guy had a live gun and shot it out with the police. Very, very similar. I think you're going to find that he probably, when they dumped the computer, he was aware of that attack and wanted to mimic it. The other thing is the Major Nadal event at Fort Hood. If you recall, this happened during the Obama years. He had been on the FBI's radar screen as well as the Army's radar screen. And for politically correct purposes, they didn't go at him. They left him in place. He actually had been picked up having conversations with Anwar al-Awlaki, a notorious Islamist radical preacher who was in Yemen. And he was asking, how can I do jihad here in America? And they didn't roll him up somehow. As a result, he shot Fort Hood up with an automatic weapon, and he was wounded, and he is now imprisoned. You got to ask yourself, this guy just did 10 years in the military, seems to have been leading a slipping down life, recently divorced apparently, or going through a divorce, big money problems. Is it a similar circumstance as to Nadal, somebody who could have been picked up, where there was some indicia of radicalization, and maybe, as I said, a slipping down life, that cognitive aperture, that kind of ideology can push through and take hold of somebody's mind? Doing those sorts of investigations, you saw that kind of thing again and again. That's going to be part of the cleanup work here, to figure out what happened, to do the forensic. And you got a new administration coming in 3 weeks. I think we're past the point that anybody can be shined on, because the Trump DOJ is going to want answers as to how this happened. But right now, the most important thing is to keep everybody safe. You got to find if there's any other pieces out there. If in fact it's true, you got to get a hold of them as quickly as possible. And let's not ignore the Vegas event. Could it be a coincidence that they both happened on the same day? Of course, and they likely are coincidental. But that said, as investigators, you also have to admit the possibility that they're related, because you have essentially what it looks like to be two terrorist events on the same day. That is not common in American history, as somebody who did a lot of this work. I'm telling you, I don't recall seeing that before unless they're coordinated. So you have to really say to yourself, are there any connections? And you hope we get the right answers, or answers of any sort here, whether we like them or not, because this is not something that could be covered up, because everybody wants us to look in a different direction with an FBI and a federal counterterrorism apparatus that I think has taken its eye off the ball a little bit. I'm Paul Morrow for the Ops Desk. It is right now about 5:40 Monday, New York time. We'll update if we get any further. In the meantime, I hope you're all safe, and thoughts and prayers for the victims of today's terrible events.